Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. You believe you know who you are. You walk through life wearing a name, carrying a family history, repeating roles that were handed to you before you could speak. You think of yourself as the good son, the loyal daughter, the achiever, the strong one, the quiet one. These labels feel safe. They tell you where you belong. But have you ever stopped and asked, what if the person you've been protecting is not you at all? What if the self you cling to is only a mask? We are taught stability is found in identity. The family says, be like us, don't wander too far. Society whispers, fit in, succeed, follow the path. And so you obey. You build a life that looks secure, a job, a relationship, a reputation. On the surface, everything holds together, but deep down, a quiet unease grows. At night, when silence surrounds you, you feel the emptiness. The illusion of stability hides the truth that you are living someone else's script. You are a shadow actor in a play you never wrote. Then comes the moment of fracture. Something cracks, the breakup that shatters your heart, the failure that burns your pride, the loss that leaves you breathless. The walls you leaned on crumble. The mirror you stared into for years suddenly shows a stranger. This is the moment Jung spoke of when he said the individuation process demands a kind of death. The false self must collapse so the deeper self can emerge. It is terrifying. You feel as if your world is ending. But in reality, it is only the illusion that dies. The masks are torn away, revealing the wounds you hid, the desires you denied, the truths you silenced. Imagine it. The mask slipping from your face, falling into pieces on the floor. The identity you wore so proudly turns to dust. And in the fragments, you realize you are not who you thought you were. You never were. That person was a construct, built out of survival and fear. The shattering is painful, but it is also the first taste of freedom. Because if the false self is gone, then the true self finally has space to breathe. But here is the paradox: you cannot discover who you are by holding on. You must disappear. You must let the old image burn in the fire. Disappearance is not destruction. It is initiation. Just as the seed must vanish into the dark soil before it becomes a tree, you must sink into the void of unknowing before life can reveal itself. The silence you fear is the womb of your rebirth. So ask yourself, what if the death you fear is not the end, but the beginning? What if you must vanish from the roles, the masks, the illusions, before you can finally return as yourself? What if your disappearance is the only doorway to truth? I disappear, and I awaken. I vanish, and I am born. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You wear a mask. You've worn it for so long you no longer notice it pressing against your skin. It began in childhood. The good child mask, the one who never caused trouble, who learned to smile on command. Or maybe you became the pleaser, always adjusting your tone, your clothes, your laughter, just to be liked. Or perhaps you chose the successful one, driving yourself into exhaustion to prove your worth. Each role is rewarded. Parents nod with approval. Teachers praise. Friends admire me. Society applauds. And so you keep wearing it, until one day you forget there is a face underneath. But Jung warned that what wins approval is often what buries the soul. You become a ghost, performing a part in a play you never auditioned for. The applause is loud, but inside you hear only silence. And when you seek love, you bring the mask with you. You mistake validation for intimacy. You confuse control for care. You believe the one who clings tightly must truly love you. But deep down, you feel the chains tightening. You post a picture online and count the likes, mistaking digital approval for connection. You stay in a toxic relationship because at least it makes you feel chosen. But this is not love. It is dependency dressed in romance. Then there is the prison you never see until the bars close around you. Comfort. Comfort feels like safety, a steady job, familiar faces, predictable routines. You tell yourself it is enough, that stability is what matters. Yet inside, your soul begins to rot in the silence. You silence your real opinions to avoid conflict. You turn away from dreams because they feel too risky. And slowly, without noticing, you trade your freedom for security. Jung spoke of the danger of clinging to the collective, the shallow life everyone applauds but few truly desire. Comfort is a velvet cage. It feels soft, but it keeps you small, and when you dare to step outside it, panic rises. You run back even if the cage is killing you. Look closely now. The mask, the false love, the quiet prison. They are not you. They are illusions that trap you in someone else's design. They promise safety but steal your authenticity. They promise belonging but erase your soul. And the longer you wear them, the harder it becomes to remember what your true face looks like. But there is another path, one where the mask is shattered, the chains of false love are broken, and the door of the prison swings open. That path begins when you choose truth over illusion, no matter the cost. I broke the mask. I release the chains. I walk out of the prison, and I choose myself. Till you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You believe you are making choices. You believe your hands are on the wheel. But in truth, something deeper is pulling the strings. Trauma, rejection, fear of abandonment. They sit in the shadows like unseen puppeteers. You choose a career, but behind the ambition is the childhood wound of not being enough. You chase love, but beneath the longing is the terror of being alone. You kneel in faith, but behind devotion hides fear of punishment. You think you are free, but the strings are already tied. Jung knew this truth. Until the wound is faced, it decides for you. Every yes, every no, every step you take is haunted by the ghost of what you have not healed. Look at the pattern. You fall in love, only to find the same heartbreak repeating with different faces. You leave one job because it drained you, only to enter another where the same emptiness waits. You cut ties with a toxic friend, but somehow invite another who wears a different mask yet wounds you in the same way. Again and again, the cycle turns. Jung warned that what you avoid does not vanish, it reappears as destiny. What is unconscious in you will appear outside you. The rejection you never faced finds you in every relationship. The shame you buried shows up in every achievement. The wound repeats until you finally turn and face it. And until that day, you are not choosing, you are reenacting. And then, the hardest truth. The people you resist most are often mirrors of yourself. The colleague whose arrogance disgusts you, the friend whose envy makes you uneasy, the stranger whose confidence awakens your bitterness, they are reflections of your denied self. You cannot stand them because they show you what you repress. You hate their arrogance, yet secretly crave their boldness. You resent their freedom, yet quietly long for your own. The shadow stares back at you in the faces of others, and you will keep encountering these mirrors until you accept what they reveal. The shadow is not an enemy, but a messenger. It brings you the pain you tried to bury, the desires you tried to kill, the truths you feared to admit. As long as you deny it, it controls you. It chooses the partner, the career, the faith, the failures. But when you meet it face to face, the strings are cut. For the first time you can act instead of react. For the first time you choose. I face the wound. I see the mirror. I cut the strings. I am free. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. And yet before that light can rise, the darkness comes first. You feel it when the mask you wore for years finally slips. At first, it's just cracks in the surface, sleepless nights, the weight in your chest, the silence that feels like a scream. You try to hold it together, but the old roles no longer work. You can't fake the smile. You can't force the laugh. Anxiety creeps in like a storm cloud. Emptiness swallows the things that once gave you meaning. Success feels hollow. Love feels distant. Even the mirror becomes unbearable, because the face staring back no longer belongs to you. This is the fall from the mask. It feels like death, but it is the death of illusion. The old identity, the one that kept you safe, begins to disintegrate before your eyes. Then the collapse deepens. What mystics once called the dark night of the soul is what Jung knew as the unavoidable descent into shadow. You wake up one morning and realize you are wandering in a desert inside yourself. Every step is dry, heavy, endless, or it feels like drowning. You thrash, you gasp, but the waters of despair keep pulling you under. You may burn instead, flames licking away the stories you clung to, until only ashes remain. Nothing brings relief. Friends can't reach you. Religion feels silent. Hope itself seems absent. And yet this agony is not madness. It is initiation. The collapse is the path the psyche demands when the old self no longer serves. Jung warned that those who avoid their shadow collapse unconsciously, but those who endure it consciously can be reborn. And then comes the shattering. The ego breaks apart like glass hitting stone. You no longer know who you are. You walk through your days feeling like fragments. One part still clinging to the past, another drifting into nothingness, another screaming for meaning. You feel invisible, like a ghost in your own life. At times you whisper to yourself, "I am nothing." But hear this, the collapse is not the end. The pieces must scatter so the deeper self can emerge. What you call nothing is the soil of everything you are becoming. The shadow does not destroy you. It dismantles what is false so the truth can be born. You are not broken. You are breaking open. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. You thought it was love. You thought the approval you chased was proof you were worthy. The way their eyes lit up when you succeeded. The way they held you when you obeyed. The way society clapped when you fit into its mold. It felt like love, like belonging, like salvation. But what if it wasn't? What if what you worshipped was not love at all, but a false god? A hollow idol made of status, validation, and applause. Jung knew this danger. He warned that when you seek wholeness outside yourself, you end up enslaved to illusions. Approval becomes your master, status becomes your drug, and surface love, the kind that vanishes when you disobey, becomes your cage. You thought you were held, but you were only controlled. You thought you were chosen, but you were only convenient. The false god gives comfort for a moment, but then demands your soul in return. And then one day, it is gone. The partner leaves. The job fires you. The applause fades. At first, it feels like devastation. Your world collapses. You whisper to yourself, "I lost everything." But what if you lost nothing? What if you only lost the mask of love that was never love to begin with? What if the very thing you are grieving was the chain that kept you small? Loss feels like tragedy, but in truth, it is liberation. The prison door has opened. The illusion has been stripped away, and though it feels unbearable, it is freedom disguised as grief. Without the false god, you are no longer bound to perform. Without the counterfeit love, you no longer have to beg. The chains break not with celebration, but with tears, and those tears cleanse you. Then comes the silence. At first, it was terrifying. You are alone, stripped bare, with no identity to lean on. But listen carefully to that silence. Beneath the grief, there is a whisper. The whisper of the authentic self, the seed you buried long ago. It tells you that love was never outside you, that worth was never given by applause or validation, that you were never meant to bend and shrink to be accepted. In the emptiness, truth begins to grow. It is fragile at first, like a seed in dark soil, but it is alive, and for the first time, it is yours. The false god is gone. The counterfeit love is gone. What remains is the seed of truth, yourself, waiting to grow into the life you were always meant to live. I lost nothing real. I lost only the illusion. And in the emptiness, I find myself. The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared, who goes down to the deep well. To step into this passage is to face yourself without disguise. It takes courage, greater than any battle outside you. The first act of bravery is to admit what you have denied. The envy that twists your stomach when others succeed. The rage you hide behind polite smiles. The shame that has silenced your voice for years. The forbidden desires you bury so deeply you pretend they do not exist. To see these truths is not weakness, it is strength. Most people spend their lives running from these shadows, blaming others, hiding in masks, terrified of what the mirror might reveal. But if you dare, you stop running. You turn, you look straight into the dark eyes of the parts of yourself you tried to kill. It feels like fire. It feels like standing naked in a storm. But it is here, in the terrifying clarity of self-honesty, that your power begins. And when you stay in that fire long enough, you begin to see what was hidden. The shadow is not only wound, it is also a guide. The anger you feared becomes a sword that cuts through lies, teaching you to set boundaries and protect your soul. The pain you carried becomes the soil of compassion, giving you the power to heal others, because you know what suffering feels like. Even envy, once poison, becomes a map, pointing to the desires you must claim as your own. The shadow does not come to destroy, it comes to restore. Every trait you thought was unworthy is a fragment of your authentic self, waiting to be transformed. Think of the artist who turned heartbreak into timeless music, the leader who turned shame into resilience, the parent who turned wounds into deeper love for their child. This is the alchemy of the shadow, turning darkness into gold. Then, from the fragments, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel whole, not perfect, not pure, but whole. The light and the dark stand side by side inside you. The mask is gone, the chains are gone, and for the first time you are no longer split in half. This is individuation, the sacred marriage of opposites. You realize the self you feared was your enemy, is the self you always needed. Without the shadow, your light was hollow. Without the light, your shadow was destructive. Together they create depth, authenticity, and strength. You no longer hide. You no longer beg for acceptance. You walk into the world as one, flawed, fierce, radiant, untouchable. I see the shadow. I claim its fire. I unite the light. I am whole. Man cannot stand a meaningless life. But now, after the collapse, after the fire of the shadow, you finally glimpse what meaning truly is. It is not found in applause, not in masks, not in desperate chains disguised as love. It is found in the stillness of being yourself without disguise. This is the quiet strength of the individual self. You no longer need to prove your worth in every room you enter. You no longer chase the approving nods that once felt like oxygen. You walk into silence and you feel whole. You sit alone and you are not empty. You are complete. Others may misunderstand you. They may project their fears onto you. But it no longer matters, because when you have met the shadow and claimed your light, there is nothing left to hide. The quiet strength is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It simply exists, grounded, untouchable. And here lies the paradox. You disappeared. You let the false self die. You vanished from the stage you once performed on, and it felt like death. But in that disappearance, you reappeared in truth. The masks dissolved, but the face beneath them finally emerged. To disappear from illusion is to awaken in reality. You no longer play the roles of savior, pleaser, victim, or achiever. You no longer chase the surface dreams handed to you by others. You stand in the raw, unpolished truth of your being. And in that truth, you are free. This is the power of disappearance. It is not loss, but return. You left the cage, and in leaving, you found the sky. And now, a new rhythm rises in you. Not the frantic beat of anxiety, not the aching pull of false desire, but the steady hum of peace. Chaos still surrounds you, storms still rage, voices still clamor, illusions still tempt. But within, there is calm. Within, there is a center no storm can touch. You realize peace was never something you had to earn. It was always waiting beneath the noise. The shadow revealed it. The collapse cleared the way, and now it lives in you. The world may remain chaotic, but you are no longer part of its madness. You choose differently. You choose peace. I disappear, I become. I die, I live. I vanish, and I am found.